Get ready to break molds and blaze trails. Welcome to the Chelsey Holm podcast, your shortcuts to wellness, business, and growth with a twist. Let's flip the script and unlock your full potential together. Hey, let's talk about putting yourself in the room with people more successful than you and how uncomfortable that can be. So you can hear in the background there's a lot of chatter right now, but I'm at 10X Ladies in Miami, and this is a part of my coaching mentoring package that I signed up with through Grant Cardone to 10X. And I wanted, I think like the biggest thing, because, you know, I'm a mindset coach, like I know you cannot go where your brain, or you can't grow where your brain can't go. And like the level of impact and value that I'm wanting to add at this point in my life is way more than anything that I have really rubbed shoulders with, for the most part, right? Like, it just, right? Because I mean, how often, you know, in your circle do you rub shoulders with multimillionaires and billionaires who are making massive impact around the world for good? If you're like me, probably not very often, right? And so coming to this conference was really me putting myself in the room with those people, being able to learn from people who have crazy goals of like impacting 7 billion people, right? Like, that's kind of crazy, right? But like it's these delusional goals that change things, right? And it starts with one person at a time. And, you know, so in order to think bigger, I know, as a growth mindset coach, a coach who gets coached, who also does a lot of self-coaching, that I needed to put myself in the room with people more successful than me. But let me tell you, coming on this trip, like, it was interesting. I was seeing behaviors come out of me that, like, I could pinpoint right away of like, I am totally avoiding right now. Why am I avoiding right? Like I put off packing until like the last minute, and I like wasn't sure what to wear. And then like as I'm packing, like I'm having all of these thoughts go through my head of like, what does a successful person wear, right? And so like my brain is thinking and imagining what a successful person looks like, right? And then I don't know, it was almost like not really panic. I wouldn't say it was quite on that level, but like these feelings coming up, which indicated to me that I've got a story going on. And it was these deeply rooted stories that I've had like all my life that, you know, I don't belong and I'm not as successful as other people. I don't quite fit in. And the night of registration, which was Thursday afternoon, evening, just walking over, like I walked over from my hotel to the resort conference center. And it was kind of like drizzling, raining, and it was like hot outside. And like I did the 20-minute walk, which is not that big of a deal. Like I actually like walking places, but there was something about it that was tied into this thinking, these stories that were coming up. And then as I like entered the hotel, like I just felt so out of place. And it's not by what anyone was doing or what they're like were saying to me or like how they're, you know, making me feel, because nobody can make you feel a certain way. It's your stories. It's meaning that you're assigning to the data that you're interpreting that is making you feel a certain way, right? This is like storywork 101, and I've had to do some serious storywork 101 on myself this weekend, because anytime that you put yourself in a situation where you're uncomfortable because you know growth is on the other side, guess what? It's going to be uncomfortable. and it was. And, you know, like I had to essentially like pinpoint and identify this story of what I thought a successful woman looked like in my head. And then essentially dismantle it and redefine it for my own. And then, you know, at this conference, yesterday's speakers, Laura Trump and, Natalie Dawson and Elena herself, Elena's daughter spoke, Grant spoke, But like the overall message that I was getting was that, you can only be you, and trying to be anybody else is going to be extremely frustrating and defeating. Um, and and it's so funny because like I had to identify and shake off these beliefs that I needed to look a certain way. Because one of my tendencies when this story comes up of I don't belong is I need to go like buy a new outfit, and I need to like get my hair done, and like I need to do all these things in order to present myself a certain way. And like there's nothing wrong with doing those things when you know the thinking behind it of, you just need to do those things, or those things will, you know, make you feel more confident. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But when it is a behavior that's being driven by the way that you're feeling because of the story that you're telling yourself, in my case, I don't belong, right? Like it was an indicator for me. And so I've had to sit each night in my hotel room and do some journaling and really lean in with compassion and curiosity of like, why am I feeling this way? And, who am I really, which sounds so silly, but at the end of the day, like God called me and sent me on a mission and has given me specific talents that I have to multiply, right? Like I get to multiply. And I'm not going to do that if I'm trying to be somebody else or show up in a way that doesn't feel authentic, because one of my core values is authenticity and belief and joy. And, nothing saps your joy like trying to be somebody else or be something you're not, right? And the truth is, like, I am a more natural girl. Like, I don't do a lot of makeup. Like, if you love makeup, that's great. I'm not ever really been that girl. Like, to me, when I do that, it's because I'm trying to cover up or show up as somebody different. Versus my look is much more natural. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my youth mascara from Chelsey. Like, I wear that stuff every day, and it probably does look like I have false lashes, even though I don't. But like that, and good skincare, and maybe a little blush, and like that's my look. And I haven't had any work done to my face. It's really just good skincare, and like that's me. And yeah, I had to like really think through that of like, I don't need to look a certain way, like some of these other women, because the crazy thing, and not crazy, like I found some other women who are so natural too, just like me, but like we have huge passions, that, and just big things that we're going after because we want to help more people. Like we just see so many problems that we can bring solutions for, and we want to get out there and help people. And it doesn't matter what we look like, and it doesn't matter that we don't look like some, I don't know. You don't want to, like, okay, there's just a look of people, I guess, who are in the spotlight, right? Like, they have a very defined look for the most part, and but that's like a story. Like there's nothing that actually defines that, because for them, that's what they want, like, right? Like, but that's just not what I want at this point in my life. And plus, I would never do Botox because it's super toxic. And why would I preach and live a low tox life if I wanted to inject my face with straight up toxins? Like, everything I do is driven by belief, and my beliefs cannot contradict each other, right? And so this is another one of those areas where like I just had to do some serious self exploration of those stories that were coming up for me. And I just wanted to do this podcast episode for you to show you like me in the trenches of doing the story work and what that looks like, and the fact that like growth is hard, but also being stuck is hard. And so we get to choose what is our hard. And through all of the story work that I've been doing on myself, I had to really get back to that, like, well, what is it that I want to choose to believe, right? Because Because our stories and our beliefs are interpretations of data, but they're not facts. Like, they're not. And we can change them anytime. And that's literally what I help people do, is change the story, right? And so I was like, well, what is the story that I'm choosing to believe? And honestly, it had to just be a reminder for me, because I've already done this work. And so I just reminded myself that I put myself in uncomfortable situations intentionally, because I know growth is on the other side. And so for me, it was like, well, of course I'm going to do this. And like, there's a lot of courses in my life. Like, of course I do this. Of course I do this. Like, of course I don't, like, I'm not that way kind of thing. And, sometimes you just have to stop and you have to look and you have to celebrate the of courses. And like, just for this trip, like, I scheduled everything, booked everything, got myself to the airport. Like, I do all those things and I don't even think about it. And I know for a lot of people, like, that's a struggle. Like, even just getting on an airplane, like, and I don't even think twice about it. Like, I still pray as we take off, like, Lord, put your hands around this airplane and help us to fly and land safely, right? Like, protect the people who are on this flight. If anyone is feeling anxious, please be their comfort and their peace, right? Like, I still do those things. And then when we land, I'm like, thank you, Lord. Right? Which is the funny thing is, like, when I get in the car, I don't necessarily pray every time. And you're actually more likely to die in a car crash than you are in a plane. I actually looked it up recently because my kids were nervous about something. I was like, yeah, it's actually more likely that we're going to die in a car crash because we spend way more time on the road than actually most people. But anyway, that's totally a tangent that you probably don't even hear about. But a lot of times when it comes to stories too, we do have to stop and we have to celebrate those of courses of, like, I'm doing these things, and it's not a comparison to other people who maybe aren't doing those things. It's literally just an acknowledgement of the fact of, like, I do these things. I did these things, and, like, let's celebrate that fact, right? Like, because we tend to just look at the results that we're producing or the things that we don't have, right? Like, we tend to focus on the gap of between where we are and where we want to go, instead of stopping and looking back at how far we've come and the progress we've made and how much we've grown already. And so for me, this weekend was a reminder of the story that I'm choosing to tell myself, that I intentionally put myself in situations where I feel uncomfortable, especially sitting at the most successful table in the room, so I can learn as much as I possibly can, because I know growth is on the other side of that. Like, I intentionally challenge myself. Look at exercise. Exercise is intentionally challenging yourself so that you grow stronger, right? Like, it's literally tearing down your muscles. So story work is literally tearing down your stories that aren't serving you and building them back up in a way that they do. And so I hope that you guys can hear all of this. There's a lot of noise in the background. I might have to actually reduce the background noise when I edit this. But this is raw. This is real. This is the story work I've been doing. And I thought that, if I'm going through it, you can totally relate to this, that, and you might be able to see, like, oh, okay, so there are these certain behaviors that I do that are indicating my story popping up. And then I can backwards work from that of, like, okay, well, what is the emotion that I'm, like, how am I feeling that's, like, driving this? Like, so for me, it's like I was not feeling confident, right? I was doubting myself. So I was feeling compelled to go get my hair done and do all these things. I did, like I said, I did need to get my brows done because I was looking like a Sasquatch. I had old man brows and I did need to get those done. So I did do that. But otherwise, like, I didn't need to buy a new outfit. I didn't need to get my hair done. Like, I didn't do those things because I was able to self-identify in that moment of, those are behaviors that are indicative of a strong emotion going on right now that is being driven by a story. And because of that, I was able to work through it and choose a different story, right? Because our stories drive everything and create our outcomes, and our stories are not facts. And we have to be able to separate the facts, the actual what happened, what was said, like things that you could go to court and prove, right? Like, we have to be able to separate that from the stories, the things that we're making it mean inside our head. And if we can't do that, we're going to continue in our subconscious patterns and be frustrated that we're not getting the results that we want, but also we're having a misalignment in our goals, like of where we want to go and what we're actually doing and how we're showing up today. And so I hope you feel challenged by this, but I also hope that you feel like you could totally relate to this. And, the cool thing about story work is yes, like I'm a coach who gets coached, so I know the power of having someone else be able to see the forest through the trees. But there's also a lot of self-coaching that we can do, and there's so much of that. Like, do you have to journal? No, you don't have to. For me, I communicate and understand better through written word. And so for me, that's powerful, but maybe you're more auditory. So maybe you just need to speak out loud and record yourself talking to yourself, right? Like, or maybe you're more visual. Like maybe you need to record a video, like talking to yourself. Maybe you're more creative. Like, can you draw a picture of what it is that you're experiencing and feeling? Maybe you're more analytical. Maybe you make a list of everything, and then you can go through it and examine that with curiosity and compassion and really detailed. Like, we all learn differently, we all grow differently, but the common denominator for growth is getting uncomfortable on purpose. And once you embrace that fact, like one of the girls on my team, she has been successful because she learned and embraced this from the beginning and created the story that is driving everything for her, that growth for her is always on the other side of getting uncomfortable. And so she's continued over the years to get uncomfortable, to do things that challenge her thinking, that challenge her as a person, and she has to grow through it. And I truly believe that that's why she has been as successful as she has and will continue to be successful over the years in her business, in even more ways than we can't even fathom right now. And so I want to ask you, when was the last time that you intentionally put yourself in a situation or did something that you were not confident to do? Honestly, you were afraid. Maybe it was public speaking. Maybe it was signing up for a marathon. I will tell you, the power in signing up and doing something that physically challenges your body actually translates really well to mindset work, because your brain is the one that needs to be convinced when it comes to doing physically difficult things. You guys have heard me say this so many times before, but it's your mind that needs to be convinced to keep going. There's always more in the tank. Every single time I've ran a race, not fast, but ran a race and completed it, that last little leg, you can sprint. Like when you think you're dead, like I felt like I had to drag my legs, like, because I felt like I had a softball in my calf because my muscle was so seized up. And yet I still sprinted across that finish line. Like, what? So that tells me there's always more in the tank physically. It's your mind you have to convince. And this is why I'm a growth mindset coach, because I truly believe that women who grow are going to be able to show up better for the world around them, for the ones they love most, but also even beyond that. And honestly, my start in network marketing is what unleashed and showed me and taught me the power of personal development intentionally every single day. And it's why I love helping other people, because I've been helped so much by it. And like, you're obviously listening to this podcast because you want to grow, or you're curious about, I don't know, maybe you just think I'm crazy and you like listening to me talk. Maybe that's it. I don't know. And that's okay if that's why you're here. But I don't know that anyone can listen to these podcasts that I do, these episodes, without growing, honestly, because it challenges you. It highlights maybe the areas that you're not growing in, that you're feeling frustrated because you know what you want, but you're still here. And that chasm is where the frustration lives, right? And so how do you bridge that? Well, it's through story work. It's through increasing your level of belief. It's through putting yourself in challenging, difficult, uncomfortable situations, because growth is on the other side of that. And so if you haven't done anything lately that is uncomfortable enough to grow you, now is the time. Go sign up for that race you've been thinking about. Go on that mission trip you've been thinking about. Go to that conference that you've been thinking about. Book a flight somewhere and take a vacation that you've been nervous to do because you feel like you don't know what you're doing, right? Like, just go call a friend and meet a friend for coffee, or invite girls over to hang out, or like, there's so many things that you could do that would make you uncomfortable. It doesn't mean you have to go and speak on a stage somewhere. Like, maybe that's your thing, but like, do something that's going to challenge you, and just know that you're going to grow through that. And it's really going to help you in your story work as you master hard things, and that is how confidence is created. It's through doing the things that you don't know how to do and continuing to do them. And confidence is the product, because when you do something, you do get better and better at it, right? And yeah, so I will have another episode like with my post 10X Ladies recap, but I wanted to give you an in the moment, real, live, raw look at me doing my own story work and what that's looked like and felt like, and just to have something that you can relate to and to challenge you. All right, hope you guys enjoyed this. I gotta go line up. Take care, friends.
Thanks for joining the Chelsey Holm podcast journey. If you've enjoyed challenging the norm and embracing growth with a twist, share the love. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, keep defying expectations and keep leaning into who God made you to be.